stand and join us as we open our service with All Good, All Good. All love. All love, holy, holy. All love, holy, holy. All in my mind, in my heart, in my soul. Let me know all is love, holy, holy. All one, all one. All one, holy, holy. All one, holy, holy. All in my mind, in my heart, in my soul. Let me know all is one, holy, holy. All God, all God. All God, holy, holy. All God, holy, holy. All in my mind, in my heart, and my soul. Let me know all is God, holy, holy. And back to all good. All good, holy, holy. All good, holy, holy. All in my mind, in my heart, and my soul. Let me know all is good, holy, holy. Let me know all is good, holy, holy. Okay, and our second opening song is Right Where I Belong. You have the lyrics right there, probably on the back of the first song. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see. This glorious morning, why ask for anything more? I follow where my heart leads, walk through the open door. I've always been a seeker, felt that I was alone. Now in this room full of smiling faces, I know I found my home. This is where joy lives, this is where love is. This is the place where I am strong. This is where eyes meet, where kindred hearts beat. I am right where I belong. Oh, oh, oh. Here in this place I'm accepted. I'm welcome just as I am. I'm ready to be inspired, to reach out a helping hand. This is a new beginning. I trust in the mystery. Now that my heart is opened, there's no place I'd rather be. This is where joy lives. This is where love is. This is the place where I am strong. This is where eyes meet, where kindred hearts beat. I am right where I belong. This is where joy lives. This is where love is. This is the place where I am strong. This is where eyes meet, where kindred hearts beat. I am right where I belong. Oh, 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 oh. I am right where I belong. Oh, 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 oh. I am right where I belong. Welcome.
And please be seated. In the beginning was the one presence of the undivided and unmanifest pure spirit of life, light, and love. In its generosity, it shared itself, its consciousness, and its love in the visible form of creation. We acknowledge this presence within us and as us. The creative energy of the divine feminine and masculine, expressing in all our giftedness and creativity. We acknowledge this in our companion Mother Earth and in all sentient beings. This universal presence in everything we call the Christ. We light this candle as a visible reminder of the Christ presence, expressing in, as, and through us in this present moment now. It is a truth. Let us own it. And good morning. I want you to notice that you're sitting in a different configuration today, in case you hadn't been paying attention. And the reason that we're set up this way today is that up here it's 2022. Down here it's going to be 1493. And back in the day, this is how the Catholic Church would be set up, with a cross where the congregation would sit facing the center. So all will become clear shortly. I'd like to ask if there might be anybody who's here for the first time today and you just didn't know that this is a different setup. Anybody? Just raise your hand so we know you're here. We can greet you later on. Okay, well then welcome back, everybody. We want you to know that whoever you are and wherever you might be on your spiritual path, you are welcome here. So thank you for being with us today. And we're going to just turn and greet our neighbors for just a minute, just where we're sitting, and say good morning. And then please, if everybody would please turn towards that camera and wave to our friends at home. Thank you for being with us online today. We are really appreciative of your being with us. We are a joyful, evolving spiritual community committed to spiritual practices, compassionate service, and living on purpose. This is our mission. Today, our guest musician is J.P. Falcon. Thank you. And Marcia, thank you for being our accompanist today. And 3 of the calling birds will be helping to lead some of the music down the road here. So let's just take a deep breath and get centered as we prepare to say our 5 principles of unity. If you don't know them by heart, they are printed on the inside of your bulletin. And we do say these together every week. So take a deep cleansing breath, gently releasing. And let's say together, God is good and present in all things. The holiness of God is my own true nature. I am creating my experiences by how I think. My thinking is guided by my daily affirmative prayers and affirmative actions. I follow and am sustained by these values in every way, every day, and so it is.
Part 1. It's a little loud. Right? Part 1. How's that? Part 1. Earth. Charles Fillmore talks about the sacred essence of earth. This part of us that is the materialness of us, that's sacred, and that's beautiful, and we show up as the very stuff of this planet. It is one part of us. We have a 4-part journey that's going to happen. But the beautiful thing about earth is its very essence of who we are as human beings. You know, that stuff of the earth is when we know who we are and what's important to us and what we resonate with and what our passions are and how we're showing up on this physical plane. My name is Bartolome de las Casas. And the year is, well, wait, let's see if you can guess. Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492. Okay, that was last year. It's 1493. And I remember so clear in 1493, I was 8 years old. And I was 8. And I saw Columbus went and he came back. And this was an amazing time to live in Spain. I was in Seville. And I watched as Columbus and the other admirals and the soldiers, and they came through town and they brought these marvelous things. There was alarms. There was people that unlike I'd ever seen before, these beautiful people, and they spoke a different language. We now call it an Arawak language, and they called themselves the Taino people. And there was 8 of them coming through town and waving, and they had these birds, and they were called parrots, and they were red and green, and nobody had seen things like this before. There was spices and tobaccos and gold and silver, and they just enlivened my imagination as a young person. Wow, there's this whole new world, Of course, there was 8 Taino people who came. What I didn't know, that many, many more started the journey and died from sickness and from violence on the trip over. I had no idea at the time that these people hadn't volunteered to come over to Spain. They were conscripted to come over. But that's getting ahead of my story. At the time, all I knew was there was this whole new world called the Indies. We'd found the Indies. And Columbus and others were willing to start taking people to go and find and explore and conquer this discovered land. Oh yeah, it was discovered, as if nobody was there before. It was now discovered. And our imaginations were so fired up, and mine too. My dad, he went on the next trip to the New World to start a farming area and to start mining and exploring and finding what the riches that my dad could in this new world. We were so enlivened that the Pope put out a proclamation, the doctrine of discovery, about what good Spaniards and Portuguese can do with this discovered land, and how we can look at it for Christianity. Well, you know what? I won't speak to it. Queen Isabella of Spain herself, the most powerful monarch of the world, gave an announcement one time, and it sounded something like this.
I am your queen, Isabella of Spain, in this year 1493, year of our Lord. Following the wishes of His Holiness, Pope Nicholas, I claim that all lands that are not currently ruled by the Christian king of Spain or Portugal can and ought to be considered discovered by Christendom. And all the peoples, cities, villages, and goods be put under control of Christian princes. You, my people, are allowed to invade, capture, vanquish, and subdue all Saracens and all pagans, to reduce their persons to perpetual slavery and to take away their possessions and property. I claim this as a glorious new age of discovery. Go forward and know that God has blessed us in freeing the riches from Africa and the Americas for the glory of God. We now appoint these new islands of the West Indies, God-fearing, learned, skilled, and experienced men, in order to instruct their inhabitants and residents in the Catholic faith and train them in good morals. For this is the glory of Spain and for the strength of Christendom. And so say I.
Exciting, right? We're going to go forward and bring this whole glorious Christendom to all these peoples everywhere because we've discovered these lands. And, well, you know, they need to be converted, right? One way or the other. This was the thinking of the day. This is what I held on to as a belief. So I turned 18 and I joined a ship and I went to the West Indies. I went to this new world. I showed up in Hispaniola, and I was a son of a fairly wealthy merchant. And right away, because of my good work, and I was traveling with the governor, he assigned me to be the head of an encomienda, which basically means a land trust. Or for those of you in the current century, you might think of a plantation in the antebellum South. We called them encomiendas. But basically, it was a place where I was given somebody else's land and the native peoples as slaves. We called them servants. They didn't have a choice. And they were there, and it was just, wow. I was on this track to be wealthy, to have all these slaves, to be the Spaniard bringing Christendom to the new world. It's so exciting. And, well, that's what everyone else was doing, right? This is my culture. This is how we were. And then the governor said, we're going to go on an expedition. We've totally controlled Hispaniola, which you know today as Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And now we're going to go up to this place, La Cuba, which we know as Cuba today. And we're going to subjugate that for the name of the Queen and for Christendom. And so we went on a boat, and I needed soldiers. And I was a chaplain. So we called forth the soldiers. Good soldier, are you ready to attack Cuba and take it for the Queen and for the King and for Christendom? Thank you. Go forth, soldier, and let's conquer. And so we went, and I joined them. I was an encomiendero, a head of a plantation. And I watched what the soldiers did in Cuba. And I'll spare you the atrocities that turned my stomach, the murder and the destruction of cultures. Again, the Taino people who were facing Spanish armaments and Spanish metal and Spanish swords and didn't have a chance for the good of Queen and for the good of Christendom. And it literally turned my stomach. And I said, no more for me, no more. And so I went, and I went to back to Spain. I said, I need to show up in the new world. It is my passion. I want to be there. I need to show up in a different way. And so I had already been a learned student of Latin. I went and I was ordained. And I came back to the new world with a different vision and a different way of wanting to do things. Part 2. This part's called water. So Charles Fillmore talks about water. And he said water is cleansing to our minds and to our souls. But it's cleansing in a way that it's clarifying for our understanding. And it's clarifying for how we see things in this world. In other words, it supports our morality and supports our ethics. Now, I'll note it doesn't necessarily imply a total change in consciousness, not quite yet. But it implies a change in how we choose to look at things. And I was looking at things differently now. So the first thing I did when I got back to Hispaniola is I went into the encomiendo, this plantation that I was owning, and I allowed all the people to be set free. I said, I cannot do this. I cannot be a slaveholder. I cannot subjugate people in the way Spain is asking me to do. And I said, what is going on here? What is this way? And I started having a vision. I said, how can I stand up against the power of Spain? How can I, Spain and Portuguese and now French and English and all these people with the same mentality? And I was seeing it differently. I had been inspired to say slavery, this way of treating people was not correct. And there was others that came along with me. And we started asking, wait, stop. That we need to not enslave people. We need to work with people. We need to understand people. We need to learn each other's language and each other's culture. And we need to learn how to work together. But what is mine to do? And then one night I was preparing a sermon. And I was reading a book. This is one of the chapters in the Catholic Bible. It's called Sirach. You won't find this book in what's called now a Protestant Bible, but it's in this one. And it's a book of wisdom of the heart and transformation of heart. And I read this piece. This is from Sirach, chapter 34. The spirit of those that revere the divine ways will live, for their hope is in that one who lifts up their souls. And those who have a deep reverence for the divine, they will not be timid. They will not play the coward, for God is their hope. Oh, that just struck me. For those who have deep reverence for the divine will not be timid. They will not be a coward, for God is their hope. And happy is the soul who has reverence for the divine. To whom does that one look? Who is the support to the one who has this reverence? The eyes of God are upon them who love divine life, a strong support, a shelter from scorching wind, and a shade from the noonday sun, a guard against stumbling, a help against falling. And God lifts up the one who makes their eyes sparkle. And God gives health and life and blessing. And I read it over and over. The one who has deep reverence for the divine will not be timid or play the coward, for God is their hope. So I went back. And I went to Mexico. Man, it's hot. And I got to Mexico, and I decided that I looked, and by this time, Hispaniola, Cuba, already you could see the population of the Taino people had been greatly reduced through sickness, through violence, through poverty, through despair, the destruction that was happening. So I went over to Mexico, and I had this idea, and I started working with the bishop, and I said, this way of living where Spaniards and Portuguese and French had these large plantations and enslaved the people, what if there was a way to be in community with each other? And I found some land down in what now you know as Venezuela. Oh, if you've been there, it's beautiful. There's the river Orinoco, and it has all these fingers that come out on the beach of the ocean, and it's beautiful, pristine, waters on the ocean. It's the Caribbean. Oh my gosh, it was gorgeous. And I went back to Spain, and I found some money and some people, some farmers, and I said, instead of sending soldiers over, let's send farmers over. Let's send people who want to create a life. And we worked it out where we found a community where the native peoples and the Spaniards worked together, and we created this large community right there on the ocean. It was beautiful. We started growing things. It wasn't a very wealthy place, and that was very difficult for Spaniards because they wanted to see gold and silver and sparkly things and things that made a lot of money, so it was hard to get the support. But I found it, and we had hundreds of people come over. We met with indigenous people there. We had this community. We were listening to each other. We were learning each other's language. We were starting to write out some of this stuff, and then the Portuguese and the Spanish decided to start raiding the coast, looking for gold and for slaves. And they raided all around our new community, this new way of looking at things, this new opportunity. And because of it, they created this sense of war and destruction. And our community with native peoples who had been attacked and had been massacred came in and came in their anger and found our community, not understanding the difference, and it was all wiped out. And what did the local Spanish say? See? We told you. We told you it couldn't work. It was your violence and your slaving and your greed that drove these people to this point of despair. And they blamed, and they looked at my community and didn't allow it. And it crumbled. Oh, God. And I wanted to stay in that place of courage and not be timid. And I wanted to do something. But I realized that fully, I didn't know what to do. I tried figuring it out. I used my passion, and I used what I saw as the moral thing and the rational thing to do, but I couldn't quite figure it out. So I decided I needed to go away and take some time in the silence. I needed to go away and just go inward to figure out what I needed to do in the outward. So, part 3, air and wind. So there in Hispaniola, we had started there was a monastery that had been set up. And I went away to this monastery, and I decided to just take time apart and go in prayer. And one of my prayers was something like this. invite you to enter into a time of prayer with me. Here in now 1525 in a monastery in Hispaniola, or there in 2022 in Bellingham, Washington. Our prayers go out, and we have these things that we see in the material plane and the activities of earth that weigh on our hearts. And we bring all of those concerns, those places where we see violence, where we see upset, where we see sickness, where we see the world outpicturing not as we imagine it with divine mind that it might outpicture, but instead picturing from places that, because of human frailties and human misjudgments and human disconnectedness from the divine flow, we act out in ways that are so painful. And we bring those concerns to the temples of our hearts, but we stand in the energy of the power of divine imagination. And we say yes to this energy of the divine imagination that allows us to imagine a way of living in peace, and a way of living in harmony, and a way of working with each other, even in places we don't understand, even in situations that make us uncomfortable, even when we think we are being the victim of some issue, we still imagine with the divine imagining a new way to show up connected to the divine outpicturing of a better way, of a sacred way, of a good way, of a transformative way. We allow the divine imagination that is part of our very essence to absorb the energies of God, the energies of the Spirit. Just absorb the energies of the possibility, not just looking what's over the next ridge, but what's over that next ridge and the next one and the next one. What's coming? What's possible? What can we do without limitations, without saying it can't be done? How can we open our imagination, absorb the very energy of Spirit, and we allow now God's Spirit to work through our imagination to see the possibilities for the good that is ours to do. And we resonate in the energy of divine love. And love goes forward, and love sometimes we know can be painful, because we go forward in love, we go forward in connectedness, and when we find that disconnection, it can hurt, it can be so painful. And yet divine love is strong. We feel that love is courageous. We know that the divine love that is flowing in and through us into the world is not timid. It is courageous. It is confident. It stands with the full potentiality of the divine, and we can be that divine love showing up for others who are in pain, who are feeling stressed, who are feeling unsure, who don't know the fact that they too are connected in this energy of the divine love. So we work together with our imagination, this divine imagination, and we allow it to sink and work in coordination with divine love, so that together we can imagine what love is possible, and we can be the ones who show up in new ways, in profound ways, in creative ways, in ways that allows the energy of Spirit to flow through us in surprising ways we may not even imagine yet, but is sitting there ready for the outpicturing into the world that so wants to be bathed in that energy of the goodness of God. We use our divine imaginations. We stand in confidence in love. And so we take a deep breath now. And as you breathe in, use this mantra. I absorb the divine vision. And as you breathe out, I harmonize with compassion and love. And breathing in, I absorb the divine vision. breathing out, I harmonize with compassion and love. I breathe in, I absorb that divine vision. I breathe out, I harmonize with compassion and love. And continue to breathe now in the silence. In the silence. Take a moment in the silence. I absorb that divine vision. I harmonize with compassion and love.
Blood would flow, flesh and steel are one, drying in the color of this evening sun. Tomorrow's rain wash away these stains. Something in our minds will always stay. Perhaps the final act was meant to quench the lifetime's argument. And nothing comes from violence, nothing ever could. For others born beneath that angry star, lest we forget how fragile we are. On and on the rain will fall like tears from the start. Tears from the start. On and on the rain will say how fragile we are. Fragile we are. On and on the rain will fall like tears from the start. Tears from the start. On and on the rain will say how fragile we are. Fragile we are. Fragile we are. Fragile we are.
I stayed in that place of silence and of prayer and of quiet for 10 years. 10 years. After working first as a slave owner and having to deal with that in my own soul, and then powerfully trying my best to find ways of working in a way that would change hearts and minds and all throughout Hispaniola and the New World. And I sat and I wondered and I stayed open to the divine vision. And I opened my imagination. What can I do? What is mine to do? There's so much going on, but what is mine to do? Divine energy. Bartolome de las Casas. I want to be on purpose. But what is it? So finally, after 10 years, I was somewhat busy. I ended up writing 30 books. 30 books. Many of them, I asked people, don't publish these yet, because the day will come where Spain is going to collapse under what they've done to these people in the New World. And people will wonder, why did that happen? Then publish my books, and I'll explain it. And I drew pictures, and I showed the atrocities that the Spanish and the Portuguese and the French and the English, nobody was left out. Of course, people got my books, and people got some of these writings, especially the English. They wanted to say, aha, look what the Spanish are doing. We're better. No, they weren't. No. It was all unfolding. And I came forward, and something happened for me. Part 4, fire. And Charles Fillmore says that fire is the energy that burns the dross of materiality from our souls. Charles Fillmore says, we have this image of hell where people go and burn into eternal nature, and it's not possible because the very energy of who we are as enchrysted beings, as spiritual beings, as alive with the divine energy is fire. We are the fire, and fire can't burn fire. Oh, we can burn away the error thoughts. We can burn away the dross of materiality. Yeah, we can burn away the greed and the envy and the violence. That can be burned off and should. Ouch. But let's let it burn off. And when we get to the very essence of our divine nature, we're fire. We're alive, like in spirit, that we bring in the whole materiality of who we are as earthly beings. We bring in the water that cleanses us and allows us to see in a different way. We bring in the wind that brings in the wind of spirit with our every breath. And finally, we are also fire that gives us the energy that knows this is the I am essence of me, the divine, alive, inspirited, and fired. It is the nature of who we are as the Christ, the I am energy. We are fire. And I came out of that monastery on fire. And I had made my mistakes, but I was ready to do what was mine to do. So they called and they said, we're going to make you Bishop of Peru. And I said, no, you're not. I'm not going way down to Peru so you can get rid of me. No. But there's gold and there's the Incas. Man, they're full of gold. It's like you'll be rich forever. You know, if I had done that, I wouldn't be here telling you my story because you wouldn't have heard from me. I would have just been another rich and commander slaveholder who disappeared in shame into history. But I said, no. You make me a bishop? Send me to Chiapas. I said, Bartolome, it's the poorest place in the whole Mexico. It's like, yeah, send me there. I need to be with the people. And I did something that wasn't very popular. I mean, I was a bishop. And everyone came and in the Catholic faith, maybe some of you know, people want to go to confession and they want communion and they want to get married and they want to get baptized. And I'd say, do you own slaves? No. But won't you baptize my kids? Do you own slaves? No. But how about confession? My soul said, do you own slaves? Go, let them go. Then we'll talk. Well, that didn't last very long because the Spaniards ran me out of town, basically. I said, okay, I'm on fire. I'm on fire. And if I'm going to change things, if I'm really, really going to change how the whole largest empire on the planet that we knew of at the time, Spain, if I'm going to change how Spain is going to treat the peoples of the Americas, who do I need to talk to? Who's the one person I can talk to in all of Spain to change how Spanish are going to show up? Who is it? The King of Spain. Isabella's gone now. And now it's a king. King Charles, sorry. Isabella's gone, and it's the King of Spain, Charles. So I decided I'll go talk to the king. Sirac, no time to be timid, time to be courageous. So I sailed back to Spain, and I'm going to go talk to the king. So I had 30 books, and I started sending pieces of my books and letters and stuff, and I started sending to the court of Spain and said, you cannot imprison these people. These are good people. And if we're going to ask them to be part of Christianity, then you need to ask them. And if they want to, they can come forward. And there was a lot of other people saying, no, you just herd up a bunch of indigenous people by the hundreds, and you baptize them, and you count your numbers, and look at all the souls you've saved. I said, no, it's not what it's about. It's about meeting people where they are and talking to people and understanding and being in a conversation and seeing what people want for their lives and welcoming them in and hearing their story and finding a new way where we live together in this sacred world, in this sacred time. People didn't like to hear that very much, but that's what I was pushing. And so the king said, okay, I'll listen to you. But in order to listen to you, you need to talk to the most learned philosopher of all of Spain. And if you can convince him in front of a court, like a supreme court of people, and if you can convince him that your ideas are better than this idea that slavery was a good thing for the native peoples, well, then I'll listen to you. So see what you can do. And there was a guy named Sepulveda, and he went to the court of Sepulveda, and they had a debate. What you got to say for yourself?
Our Spanish colonists have the right to the property that they discovered for their good stewardship and for the benefit of Spain. The land trust system is just, and enslaving the native peoples is good for them. They have a chance to live in a Christian household and under Christian discipline. The native peoples in the West Indies are natural slaves, and our Spanish presence will benefit them greatly.
Sir, you have not met these people. They are full human beings, entitled to their own autonomy and their own ways they want to grow and to live and to be who they are called to be by the divine. This idea that they're natural slaves is crazy. It is not true. I've been there. I know these people. No, sir, this is not the way of it.
Hardly. The natives, the Indians, are barbarous. They commit crimes against natural law. They oppress and kill innocent people. And in fact, if they resist their enslavement, then it is a just war that is waged against such infidels.
Not true, sir. Not true. These are people, beautiful people. I've lived with them. I've been in community with them. You're just hearing propaganda. You're just hearing all sorts of reports that are so false and so not true. I've walked with these people. I've loved these people. I've befriended these people. This is just information that the court has been given to support their greed and to support their slavery. I'm telling you, Spain is going to go down by living with these barbarous principles. And this argument went on for years. And me, Bartolome, I kept going to the court, and I kept meeting Sepulveda, and we had scholars and Aristotelian philosophers and learned bishops and all these folks, and they had to make the final decision. And in the end, who won the argument? Well, you can read the history if you'd like. I think I did. Sepulveda thinks he did. But you know what happened was there was something called the new laws that the King Charles put forward. And these new laws said, whatever, as soon as this land traded hands, you had to let all the people go. And you keep the encomienda, basically the plantation you have, but when the current owner dies, all the people get to be set free. Was that a victory? Was that good? It was something. But what it did is it changed consciousness. And it started eating away at this sense of barbarism and violence and superiority that the Spaniards had at the time. Oh, it was hard to overcome the greed, but it kept eating away and eating away and eating away. And then new kings would come in and they'd put back the encomienda system, and then kings would go out and it would go away again. And they were in this constant turmoil. And finally the king disbanded slavery for good. Now, I wish I could tell you that all the Spaniards in the Americas listened to that edict. They didn't. And it didn't apply to the Portuguese or the English or the French. As a matter of fact, talk about your unintended consequences, because many Spaniards had such a hard time enslaving the native peoples because of these edicts and the way Spain was moving away from doing this, they started importing people from Africa. Oh my God. It's like win, win, and then not a win. So here I am. This is the end of my story. And I lived another, 20 years after this, and I never went back to the Americas. And I stayed in Spain, and I argued at the court of the royalty for the rights of the indigenous people, for the respect and for the dignity of the peoples of the Americas. And that's what was mine to do. Was it totally effective? Do we judge it all based on what actually happened and how many people were let go or not let go and the violence? It's big. And I don't know if I can ever totally say some kind of prescription that's going to change the world in totality and everywhere and all cases and all beyond my pay grade. But what I do know is that I show up to do what's mine to do, and I make a difference. And many followed me, and many joined with me. And it did make a difference. Bit by bit, it unfolded. And finally, people in England and people in France started reading my stuff, and they started changing. As a matter of fact, Simon Bolivar, the liberator of Venezuela and Colombia, used much of my writing to inspire the people towards their independence in Venezuela from Spain. So my writing, my work, it all had an effect going on. And as I leave you now from 1560, and I say goodbye to you in 2022, you might be thinking, well, that's not our situation now, is it? I mean, in what cases does this happen today? And in what cases do we say, I see the way we treat homeless people and mentally ill people, and I see the way we still have systemic racism in our society, and Jim Crow laws, while they're off the books, in some way still exist in very potent ways against people of color in our country. And what from that place of the fire within that tells us not to be timid and be courageous, what is mine to do? And in the case of world issues, and maybe another place that is so potent right now, I look out on this beautiful Mother Earth. In what way are we still being the Spaniards that are dominating with a mindset and a consciousness of domination and enslavement, and we can just own it and we can just take from it and we can just do whatever we want with it with no sense of obligation of cooperation and interbeing and love for the very Mother Earth that we have? In what ways, maybe, my friends, in 2022, are you still facing the same issues that I faced in the 1500s? Of seeing an awakened consciousness that says, from the fire of the divine, and I can see potentialities for the unfoldment of the good in all sorts of ways, and how can I show up empowered and courageous to make a difference, in my way for what I'm being called. And I leave, how do I do it? Where do I go? I recognize the sacredness of who I am and my passions. I recognize that I can be cleansed in my thoughts and my understanding and what I do. And the very spirit of wind, the very spirit of the divine that breathes in me with every step in prayer and in meditation and in contemplation, doing my spiritual practices, it can transform me so I can show up on fire, not timid, full of courage and confidence to do what is mine to do. Can we do that? Each of us? And as a community, let's show up and do what is ours to do. And it brings joy, and it brings transformation, And it breaks our hearts. And it breaks our hearts. But that's because we have hearts to be broken. And then our hearts can fill again with communion, with love, with companionship, with community, knowing that we showed up, we showed up, we showed up, and we did our calling. Good. We can do this. We can do this. We can do this. Amen.
Thank you, Frank, and thank you, Bartolome. If the ushers would please come forward, it's that time in our service where we get to practice the abundance that we are. We're always grateful for your generosity. So as you take your offering to your heart, and if you've given online, just take the memory of what you've given or what you will give, and affirm quietly to yourself, I give freely and joyfully, for God is my source, and I have abundance in all areas of my life. And let's say our offertory blessing together. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is.
Another day comes shining down for you and me. The Sickle shines smiling over the sailor's sea. Come look at the islands, we've got an orchid view. So much to feel here, so much to do. We got the ebb and flow. Let it blow my way. Ooh, they come and they go slowly. Never out, fade away. You wanna live life freely. Let it be. Some took to the highlands and dry lands, others the sea. Some to the valleys, then there's you and me. Oh, we love that shoreline and the life living here. We got the midnight song on the midnight air. We got the ebb and flow. Let it blow my way. Ooh, they come and they go slowly. Never out, fade away. You wanna live life freely. Let it be. Oh, let it be. We got the ebb and flow. Let it blow my way. Ooh, they come and they go slowly. Never out, fade away. let it be.
So we bless these gifts. So much gratitude. Thank you, everyone, for your blessings, for your graciousness, for your generosity to the ministry and the mission of Unity of Bellingham, for the expansion of spiritual practice, for the generosity of service to the community, and to living on purpose. And we bless these for the good of the city and the county, and for Unity Ministries worldwide, for peace on our planet. Amen. So a few announcements. A, there's a potluck after. I was laughing. It's like, if you didn't bring something, you have a few minutes to get to Safeway and get back. There's a lot of food back there, though. The other thing is, you know what month it is? It's October, which means Halloween's coming. So two things. On that Sunday of Halloween, what is it, the 30th? 30th. We're going to have the Dia de los Muertos again. We're going to set it up for Dia de los Muertos. So next Sunday, if you'd be so kind, bring a memento, a picture of a loved one, anybody you want to lay on the platform for memory, for anybody who you'd like to just put up there, a picture of a family member. It could be a picture. It can be an item. It can be whatever you want. But we're going to recreate a beautiful Dia de los Muertos altar, puja, whatever you want to call it, in the front for memories. We have a celebration of life for Ellie Morrison next Saturday, which actually is going to be really beautiful. So if you knew Ellie, I think it'd be really nice to show up. I'm actually, it's odd. It's a celebration of life, but these things can be actually very beautiful to remember people. Thank you, Jonathan, for introducing me to her. She's just a beautiful person, and we'll be celebrating her. And then after the celebration of life, bring your stuff for that Sunday, and then through that week, we'll set up the Dia de los Muertos altar. Following the Dia de los Muertos service, which is that Sunday, we're going to have trunk or treat again. And if you haven't done it before, it's really fun. You just bring your car, you pop open the trunk, you decorate the trunk, you bring trick or treat stuff, you dress up yourself, and you bring your animals dressed up. Dogs, cats, well, other animals too if you want. They got to be dressed up. You feel free to bring them to the parking lot afterwards for trunk or treat. Last year we had 100 and some kids showed up for this. We just put out the advertisements and the kids show up. For a lot of parents with little kids, it's nice to come trunk or treat in the daytime. It's safe, it's fun, it's easy. And I think we might even be building some bat cages as a special activity, thanks to Jim, if we're going to do that. I hope so. Yes, he's got his thumbs up back in the booth. Special thanks today for Queen Isabella. For our soldier in Cuba, Erin, thank you. And for Sepulveda, the learned scholar in Spain. And for Jane and Jim and Jay Scott back in the booth, thanks you guys for all the work you do. Janae, who did a great job helping set up, thank you yesterday. It was a lot of fun. And also the music, Marcia and Liz and Erin, that was very nice. And of course, JP and that piece you played, well, they're always good, but during the meditation was just perfect. I just felt that it's just, thank you for doing that. Who else should I thank?
How about if we do something for you?
Oh, okay.
Okay. Come up. So you have a gift there for your home or your office.
Aw.
So if everybody remembers, this is the time of year that we brought Frank and Diane here. It has been 1 year since they've been here.
Yeah.
So I want everybody, yes.
I know.
Yeah. We want to thank you so much.
Oh,
okay?
Thanks, you guys.
It has been a pleasure.
Yeah.
And we work really well,
Yeah.
96% of the time.
When I park in the right spot.
Yeah, exactly. There is that 4% that we're working on. I've had to find a different parking spot.
What's mine to do?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, he has.
Whatever she says. That's it.
So, anyways, I just wanted to make sure that we all have recognized
Oh,
them being
thank
here
you.
for a year and many more. Thank you
Yeah,
so
thanks,
much.
Thanks,
Thank
Jeanette.
you.
Thanks, everybody. Okay. What are we doing? Oh, we have a good one now. Yeah.
Because this is the style of, well, call and response or chants are what they did in the 1500s. But we're going to do a 20 or a 2000s type style song. So
Do we stand?
yes,
This side
and-
is going to follow Erin.
correct.
This side is going to follow me. Okay,
Right.
we're responding. So
And this side with Erin is the call. Liz's side
we're
will
the
be the
response.
response. I hear the music.
I hear the music
down in my soul.
down in my soul.
I hear the music.
I hear the music
down in my soul.
down in my soul.
I hear the music.
I hear the music
down in my soul.
down in my soul.
And the whole wide world is my home. I hear love. Well, I've got a new day. I've got a new day.
I've got a new day
down in my soul.
down in my soul.
I've got a new day.
New day
down in my soul.
down in my soul.
I've got a new day.
I've got a new day
down in my soul.
down in my soul.
And the whole wide world is my home. I love the silence down in my soul.
Down in my soul.
I love the silence down in my soul.
Down in my soul.
I love the silence down in my soul.
Down in my soul.
And the whole wide world is my home. Bring it up. I feel the power.
I feel the power
down in my soul.
down in my soul.
I feel the power.
I feel the power
down in my soul.
down in my soul.
I feel the power.
I feel the power
down in my soul.
down in my soul.
And the whole wide world is my home. Oh, yes, it is. And the whole wide world is my home. Thank you, callers. Yeah.
And thank you, responders. As we come to the end of our service, let's remain standing and say together our prayer of protection, and we do include everyone, everywhere. Together, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And I just have a little announcement about potluck. If we could see a show of hands of how many people are planning to stay, we'll be done by 1 o'clock, Joni, for the Seahawk game. Great, because we kind of want to have an idea how many tables we need to set up. Even if you didn't bring something, you're welcome to stay, and then you can help us clear tables and clean up at the end. Because we all want to participate, so If you're going to stay, please help us just move the chairs out of the way so we can set up some tables. Please leave the stuff in the center. Frank will take care of it. And now we're going to stay in our rows and just hold hands with the people next to you as we sing together, I Choose Love.
Peace in my life is growing because I choose love. Love's always present is what I'm made of. I choose love. We are a part of each other. We are one. One tie that binds us that can't be undone.